Welcome to What Matters, a podcast that looks inward at unique experiences, upward for divine direction, and outward at God's activity in the world. I'm Maciel Funk, your host, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, share it with others, spread the word, invite others to take part in these great episodes with all kinds of information. We release new episodes on What Matters Wednesdays, so every Wednesday, look for the new podcast episode. Here with me today, I'm so delighted to introduce you to Megan Maciel, and she is going to talk with us today about the very, very important ideas and systems and just all the activities involved, or the ways that we can be involved in foster care. See, I don't even know how to describe it yet, so you're going to help us figure that out. Welcome, Megan, to the podcast. I'll let you introduce yourself just a little bit.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Like Maciel said, my name is Megan Maciel. I'm the Director of Communications for KVC Kansas. We are a state contractor to provide foster care, and we also provide a number of other mental health services in the community. My background is in clinical social work. I have a master's degree in social work. I practiced clinically for about 10 years, helping children and family right here in Kansas City until I burned out. It's a very hard profession. A big shout out to all the social workers out there that are working really hard. It's a very emotionally taxing. So I made the career switch into marketing and communications, and now I get to use not only my clinical experience, but also my marketing experience to help the nonprofit space. So I'm really happy to be here and happy to talk with you today.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here with us. So KVC, tell us just a little bit, a lot actually. What is KVC?
Yes. So KVC was founded in Kansas City, Kansas over 50 years ago, and they started as the Kaw Valley Center. That's one thing people always ask is, what does that stand for?
Yeah.
And so they really started with the mission of helping youth and families in the community. And in the past 50 years, we've expanded into several different states, and we provide a number of mental health services for youth and families. We have inpatient psychiatric treatment for children, which is so important. We have home-based services for families to keep them together, and we also provide foster care services here in Kansas. And again, our focus is really on supporting the family where they're at and really providing whatever services are needed, whether that be addiction recovery, help with tangible resources for people who are struggling financially, or help with parenting. I think, in the past year, every family has been impacted. And as a single mom myself, I know it was very challenging for me to all of a sudden have my two girls learning virtually, to have my work be virtual. And so every family has been impacted. And there are a lot of families that are struggling that need those additional supports. And at KVC, we really come alongside those families, and we want to help them maintain their children in their home and be reunified with their children if they do need to go into foster care.
Yeah. I'm so glad you explained Kaw Valley
Center.
But that it is not a Kansas only.
That's correct. KVC is in many different states. In fact, we have just expanded into Missouri, and we're really excited to bring therapeutic foster care services across the state line in the Kansas City metro and also down in the southwest portion of the state. So if anybody in Missouri is listening, we're also there as well. In Nebraska, West Virginia, Kentucky, we're all over. So
see, I just had no idea. So I know that there's a great need for foster families in our community. What do you see? How do you describe that need?
Yeah, so specifically here in Kansas, there are almost 7,000 children that are in need of out-of-home placement. Wow. So, and especially children of color, we see a huge disproportionate representation of minority children in the foster care system related to the general population. So these are children that cannot be maintained in their home environment for various reasons, perhaps some abuse or neglect, perhaps their family is going through a difficult time. And also we see a lot of children with really challenging behavioral needs where their families need a lot of additional support, or maybe even these children need some residential care for a time while they can before they can be re-maintained in a home environment. So like I mentioned, there's almost 7,000 kids in Kansas. There are a lot of children right here in the Kansas City metro, just being a really populated area. And we want to keep children in the communities where they're from. We know that children thrive best in their communities. And if we have a child that comes into foster care here in Johnson County, we want to try to keep them at that school. We want to keep them in that community, connected to those resources. We don't want to have to send children to a different part of the state, outside of their community, to somewhere that they might not be familiar with. And so there are children in this community right now that are needing homes.
Yeah, and probably some siblings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to keep siblings together. That's very important to us. I'm very close to my two brothers. I can't imagine not being able to live with them, even if they drove me crazy when we were growing up. But yes, we have a huge need to keep sibling groups together, which sometimes can be very large. And we have a lot of people that inquire with KVC and say, I want to adopt a baby. I want a newborn. And as much as we would like to fulfill someone's wish of being able to care for a newborn, that's just really not the child we have. Most children that come into foster care are over the age of 8.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of teenagers, which, a lot of people are scared of teenagers.
Yeah.
But really, to have the opportunity to mentor a teen in such a pivotal time of their life can be so rewarding and can lead to such an incredible experience for foster parents.
Yeah.
And again, the people that would like smaller children, there might be a 2-year-old that's available for foster, but they come with a 7, 10, and 12-year-old as well as their siblings. So there's such a huge need to keep sibling groups together as well.
Yeah. And have you seen that happen?
Yes, it's so beautiful, and again, these sibling relationships, when children are not able to be maintained in their home with their birth families, you see them become even tighter. And more important, that those are their people. And we want to support that and maintain those connections. And again, even if a child is in foster care, that doesn't mean they can't visit with grandma and grandpa or aunties or, that teacher that was very supportive of them. We want to keep those familial connections as long as they're safe. We want to maintain those. And we absolutely do our best to keep siblings together whenever possible.
Yeah. Yeah. A friend of mine was just sharing, she knows of someone who was fostering twins and then chose to adopt.
Yes,
them.
that's wonderful.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. Adoption is so important. And there are, again, a number of children in Kansas that are ready to be adopted. When a child enters foster care, the goal is always to return those children home as safely as possible.
Yeah.
And we work alongside those birth families. And for many reasons, sometimes children are not able to go home. Oftentimes they are, and we celebrate that and continue to support those families. But if a child isn't able to go home and is available for adoption, to see the foster parents that step up, speaking of teens, we had a foster family through KVC who only chose to care for little children, like under the age of 5. And they chose to provide respite for a teen girl just for the weekend. And she was 15 and she was very into theater and they were very into theater. And so they developed this connection and they ended up taking her to Hamilton back when we could see live theater. And they just developed this relationship that started with just a weekend respite. And she was available for adoption and they chose to adopt her. And, something that they never imagined adopting a teen girl, having littles in their own house. And so it's these beautiful stories of people forming connections with children. And, we believe that families come in all shapes and forms and sizes. And, to see these families grow and be nurtured, whether that through temporary foster care or through permanent adoption, it's so incredible to see those stories every day.
Absolutely. So respite care is one way to maybe get involved in becoming a foster family. Just describe for me, what are some things to consider if you think, wow, never thought about fostering a child at all. What would that be like? What would that look like? What are the different ways to go about doing that?
Absolutely. So again, some people can be very overwhelmed with foster care because it is a lot. And that's where KVC comes in to really help you. So there's a 30-hour pre-service training class that every family is required to take before they can become licensed as a foster parent. And that pre-service training is not only going to talk with you about the child welfare system, but also give you some very tangible hands-on resources for working with children who have experienced trauma. Because any child, whether they be very tiny babies all the way up through our teens that are in the foster care system, that is a trauma. Yeah. They have experienced a disconnection from their family. They have experienced some type of life event that leads the child welfare system to be involved. And we really focus on the neuroscience and the brain science behind trauma and how that affects the developing brain. And we want our foster parents to be armed with that information so they know when their 10-year-old is melting down like a 2-year-old, it's not because they're doing it on purpose. It's not because, they want to get attention or they're just acting out. It's because their brain cannot process what's going on right now. Yeah. So we want to give foster parents the opportunity to really get training hands-on about what it means to care for a child with trauma. So we provide that training, and then we provide one-on-one support 24/7 to our foster parents if there's a crisis. Yeah. And another service that we offer that I think is really important is our foster parent therapists. So we have therapists that are only working with our foster parents because it's a big change for a family, for a marriage, for a couple, for your relationship with biological children, to bring foster children into your home. And that can impact so many different relationships in the home. So we want to provide that support, whether that be one-on-one support for a foster parent that's struggling, or a marriage or a partnership that is struggling due to bringing foster children in, or that relationship with other biological siblings and how they might be reacting to having foster children come in. So we provide that service as well. We believe that that's very important. We want to minimize the number of times that children have to move. And that's a big focus of ours right now. We want to have permanent long-term placements for children, but we know that that's just not always possible. And so respite is another way that people can provide support. I think as a parent myself, I need a break sometimes. I'm very grateful to have a very large network of support around me that can take care of my children if I need a break, if I'm working, if I have something going on. And foster parents are the same way. And so we offer respite, whether that be for a few days, a week, if someone would like to go on vacation, or even just a few hours. And actually, another way that people can get involved is through a program we called SED Respite. So SED stands for Serious Emotional Disturbance. So these are children with very high intellectual or mental health disabilities. They need a high level of care. So this service allows foster parents to care for these children even for just a few hours, so their birth mom can go to the grocery store or can get some rest. And it's a mentoring relationship. And I think that that's important for people to realize about foster care is that these foster families come alongside these birth families and want to help them. And some of the most beautiful relationships between a foster mother and a birth mother, a foster father and a birth father, or, all these parents coming together to support a child, to not only mentor these parents to make sure that they can do the best they can to raise their children, but it's just a big community coming around these children. It's really beautiful to see.
Yeah, I never really thought of that as an ongoing relationship between foster parents and birth parents.
Absolutely.
I bet that is the goal that you want to have happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, like I mentioned, anytime a child comes into care, our primary goal is that they go home to their parents.
Yeah.
And only when every resource has been exhausted does adoption become an option. And again, to see foster mothers who, let's say, have a child with some special needs, that have some special behavioral considerations, having those foster mothers coaching birth mothers when they're at visits, having, once a child has returned home to their parents, having those birth mothers reaching out to the foster mother and saying, help, what worked? Again, as a parent, I'm constantly reaching out to my mom and my mom friends and saying, I don't know what to do with this. We all need a community, and we all can come alongside these children that are especially vulnerable.
Yeah. And then not to mention that KVC stays partners and is alongside a foster family.
Exactly. We provide a number of aftercare services after the child has returned home. We're always available. We have in-house therapists for our foster children, because unfortunately, access to mental health resources can be very challenging, especially for people that don't have a lot of financial resources or just even access to care. And so we provide all of those services in-house for parents or for children. And yes, we never leave. And it's, we always want to be available and maintain those supports because it's so important. And in fact, just recently, they've expanded some services that are available to youth that have aged out of foster care, where they're able to get some additional assistance up to the age of 26. And so we're really trying to come alongside these children and these families and support them as much as we can.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said a lot of the age range tends to be from age 8 to how far did you say?
Up to 18.
18, yeah.
That's the highest need I would say that we see right now. Oftentimes younger children, either they're part of a sibling set. So maybe, let's say if a baby is born that has siblings that are already in foster care, every situation is different, but that baby we would try to place that with the foster parent that they're already at. And again, we have younger children that do come into care, but also we're also very committed to placing children with relatives when it's possible. And I think something that people don't realize is we also put an emphasis on what we call non-related kinship. So for example, if you are a teacher and you have a student that needs to enter the foster care system, the licensing requirements provide a fast track, I would say, for a caring adult that has a relationship with that child. If you're a nurse that is taking care of a child, if you have a child with a friend that needs to enter the foster care system and you're a nurturing adult, we really want to keep people in their community. So that is always our first try is to find either a relative, and if a relative is not a safe choice, then what we call a non-related kinship provider in their community, and then foster care. And so it's typically what we see, though, is children that are needing placement are school age or older. And again, I mentioned some people are very nervous about taking teens, but especially the teens that we have in care, they need that strong, stable, loving support. And oftentimes, the trauma that teens have experienced is unthinkable and unimaginable. And it is incredible to see what one caring person can do in their life, how they can motivate them, how they can encourage them to go to school. And I'm not saying it's easy, but how you can see an attitude shift and just a realization, one person cares about me. I want to do my best. I want to make these improvements. I want to make a change.
Yeah. And teen ages, it seems to me that's when a child can kind of come into their own.
Exactly.
You can really get to know and see the personality emerge.
Exactly. Yes. And it's, we also have a shelter for teen girls that's in KCK for girls that it's just not safe for them to be in a home environment. And it's the staff works so hard to nurture those relationships. And again, we want to move those girls into foster homes as soon as it's safely possible for them. But it's incredible to see the blossoming that happens with a teen. And I always joke, like for myself, I wouldn't do the baby stage again. But, and so a teen is another opportunity, to form those relationships, to be able to really have an impact, not only for an acute part of time, but as someone launches into adulthood.
I know.
And goes off to career, college, whatever their next step is going to be.
Yeah. So you're a member of Church of the Resurrection,
I am,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just fun to have that connection as well. And you know that we have a ministry here for moms at Church of the Resurrection, and they have been partnering. And then we also have the foster and adopt ministry here at church. And so the moms groups have been partnering with foster and adopt, and they work so hard to just try to provide some of those supports that are needed, and not come in and say, here's what you need, but can we answer some of those needs, such as just, think of a foster who's aging out and getting ready to go out on their own. All of the things that are required, for a young person to know and to do, to be responsible for. Yeah. What a stage, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't go back to it again myself. But no, as a member of Resurrection, and it's so encouraging to see the work that Resurrection does in our community. And that's why I choose Resurrection as my church home, because I wanted a church that was invested in this community, just like I'm invested in this community. I'm Kansas City born and raised, and it's so wonderful to see people who, and maybe fostering is not the best fit for everyone, because we know it's not, and that's okay. We're not going to sugarcoat it. It's a big responsibility, and it's a lot of work and a lot of prayer. But to come alongside children in any capacity, or to go to a foster family, and that's one of the great things that our foster adopt ministry does here at Resurrection, is to go to a foster family and say, what can I do for you? Can I bring you a meal? Do you need some clothes for the child that you just took placement of? Can I bring you some toilet paper? When the pandemic
especially when the pandemic started.
We decided to create a form for our foster parents to fill out and say, what do you need? Do you need someone to deliver pizza? Do you need groceries? Do you need iPads for your kids that are all of a sudden now learning at home? And to see the community rally around these foster parents and say, I'll deliver groceries. I can get a Pizza Hut gift card. I'll send you my last roll of toilet paper. But, to see people rally around the community is so important. And so I would say, if you're not able to foster, find out who is fostering in your community. Find out who you can support. And again, it doesn't have to be a grand act. It can be something little that can go such a long way and really make someone's day. And you talked about the women's ministry that's helped so much with our girls at the shelter. These girls, we try to make our shelter as homely as possible, but, some children just need a more residential setting, but providing a garden, providing activities for them, even crafts to do. We get donations of makeup because they're still teen girls. They still want to have their nails done and, have their face look cute and put their hair up and everything. And so things like that can just really make someone's day and not only bring a smile to those children's faces, but also to the youth or to the people that are caring for them.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know, does KVC stay in touch with foster kids as they age out? And do you ever have them like come back and say, hey, I'm doing all right?
We do. We love that.
Yeah.
Our social workers that are working directly with our families work so hard. And I just want to just say a prayer for them if you could,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's a very challenging work. I
Yeah.
started my career actually as a
Yeah.
baby social worker in child welfare, and it's very hard. And you see a lot of pain. It's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
trauma, a lot of addiction and mental health issues and violence that are affecting families in our community. And
Yeah.
I love it when we have children that age out, that go on to college, that go on to a career, that come and have babies of themselves, and
Yeah.
become parents.
Yeah.
They stay in touch with us and they let us know how they're doing it. It is really encouraging. I think,
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's such a stigma related to foster care and foster
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
And we really want to end that because these are just children.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, we were all children once and we all needed caring adults in our life.
Mhm.
Speaking like you said about when I graduated from high school, I was so blessed to have the opportunity to go to college, and I'm thinking about everything my parents did for me and my grandparents and my aunts and
Yeah.
uncles and my friends and, to get me even off to college. It's
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
And some children just don't have that. And it's our responsibility, I think, not only as Christians living God's light, but also as members of this community to come around them and to help them.
Hmm. I mean, I just think of very simple things. My kids are almost all young adults now. And, when they would ask us questions or say, I need to go to the bank, so I'm going to go to the bank. And it would be 7 p.m. at night.
Mhm.
And we'd have to explain, there is what's called banking hours. The bank is not the bank is not like Quick Trip that's open all of the time.
Yes.
I mean, and no offense either way, but it's just you need to know there are some things about life that apparently we haven't taught you.
Yes.
So we have to step back and go, okay, you need to know this. The
Mhm.
bank is not open at 7 p.m. Here's when it is open. And again, just having some of that information when you're ready to embark on getting your first apartment or starting your first job and such. And I reference that just because I know that's what our women's ministry tries to really do, come alongside and partner and prepare kids.
Exactly. I mean, I'm a mom myself, and I still call my mom and say, what
I
should I do?
know. Yeah, exactly.
We all, and I think these youth and these children, they haven't always had that supportive person, or if they have, it hasn't been the healthiest relationship. And
Yeah.
so for us to model what a
Yeah.
supportive mentorship looks for them, I just think that that's so important. And we all can do that,
Right.
through either connecting with a foster family we know of or contacting KVC. We're happy to connect you with a youth or another foster family. And again, fostering is challenging. Parenting is challenging in
Yeah.
general. And any little thing that we can do to help these families,
Yeah.
just to take the burden off, even if it's a $10 Starbucks gift card so they can go through the drive-through and get a coffee. All of those things help, and they all make a difference.
Yeah. So if a family thinks, I should find out more, I should they contact KVC. That would be a great first step. Maybe then, am I hearing you could maybe possibly talk to a foster family and hear about their experience? So just what are some of those first steps if you think maybe we could foster somebody?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the best resource is to go to our website, which is kvckansas.org. And there we have a number of forms and even find out if fostering is right for you, because again, it's a big decision. And so that's a great place to
Good.
start. And
Okay.
through our website, you're able to connect with one of our specialists who can talk with you more. And then we'll get on the phone and we'll answer your questions.
Nice.
And kind of learn what inspires you to want to foster. What are you interested in? What kind of experience are you looking for? And again, it might not be the best fit for your family at this
Right.
time. We were when the pandemic happened, we were so scared. We thought, oh my goodness. I mean, now I'm at home parenting 2 kids full time and teaching them, all these
Right.
people. And the people that came out of the woodwork that said, I'm at home now. This is my time. This is my time when I can take another child into my home. This is my time when I want to take care of a teen. It completely overwhelmed us, because it was truly the opposite of what I thought was going to happen. All of these families that said, this is my chance. But so you're able to connect with one of our specialists who can talk you through the process. There is some screening, but I do want to say, just we believe that families look different for everybody. And whether that is a two-parent household, a single-parent household, a same-sex couple, everybody is able to foster through KVC. We do have some state requirements that we'll talk about, but we really want to encourage anyone that is feeling that nudge, that's feeling, I think maybe I could do this. Just get some more information. So you're happy to talk with one of our staff, and then we'll get you enrolled in that training class, which is really where you develop those relationships. Not only with the current foster families who are guiding you through those training classes, because a lot of times it is our current foster families, but also with the other new families, because they might have a question that you didn't think about. And the class is really designed to not only, again, like I mentioned, prepare you for caring for a child that has experienced trauma, but also preparing your own families. And, for two-parent households, having that conversation with your spouse. What do you think this is going to look like? Because you might be on opposite pages. And so coming together. And again, some people have a lot of childhood trauma themselves and kind of working through that and how that might come up when you're parenting a child who's experienced trauma. And so through that training class is really where you grow those connections. And then once you become licensed, we, like I mentioned, we have all of that support and there's ongoing training. So for example, one area that a lot of our foster parents were saying is they would like some more information about LGBTQIA, caring for LGBTQIA youth. That's just something that they didn't feel equipped to do. And we have a number of teens that are transgender or identify as LGBTQIA. So we offered a support group for our foster parents, which is a safe place for them to come and say, I'm caring for this child who's transgender. Help me be the best for them. What do I need to know? I've never met anybody that's transgender or who identifies that way. So we've just kind of created that safe space out of the feedback that we've gotten for foster parents. That's just one example of the ongoing training that we offer as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then in addition to that, if fostering isn't for you, there are ways to support foster families. And KVC can kind of guide that process as well.
Absolutely. We have a number of volunteer activities. We have, if people are interested in donating, we try our very best to donate directly back to our foster parents, whether that be, for example, we just bought a bunch of Worlds of Fun tickets for our foster families. In Topeka, we have this incredible partnership with the Discovery Center, so foster families can go for free for all summer, just to be able to take their families there. So, and we also have specific needs that comes up sometimes. We had a foster family that had a fire in their home, and again, rallying around them to try to rebuild and make sure that they had just the basics things that they needed. So there are lots of opportunities and to get involved, or like I mentioned, mentoring, mentoring a teen, mentoring a child, and just being that supportive person in their life. We're absolutely able to facilitate that as well.
Yeah. Megan, I can tell you love what you do. It was a good career change for you.
It was.
And that's so wonderful because it's such an important thing to be doing as well.
Absolutely. And I just believe that as members of this church and as members of God's, I believe that we're all called to be God's light in the community. And this is how God has chosen me to express this light, to be an advocate for this service. And he gave me my personal and my career experience for this. But if I can just encourage people to just look within themselves and say, what can I do for a youth? Or maybe a youth in foster care. Maybe your child has a friend who's in care, or maybe your neighbor down the street is a foster parent, and what can you do for them? And it doesn't have to be a big grand gesture. It could just be a simple note of thanks, or just a question, what can I do for you today? How can I pray for you? All of those things just go above and beyond so we can all support youth and children in our community.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't say it any better than that. Thank you for being part of the podcast, for sharing this story and this opportunity and this mission, and for tugging on everybody's hearts to just look within and see what might come. So
exactly. Thanks so much for having me. I so appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And that's what matters about foster care and KVC. Be sure to check out the website. We'll provide all of those links and information, all that information for you. I'm Maciel Funk, your host, and I'll see you next time. That was great.
That was so wonderful. Thank you.
A lot of great information that, I just don't even know exists.
And that's, there's just so many myths and like I said, a stigma, unfortunately, not only attached to the children, but to foster parents. And
But wow, what a calling. And just, it's so nice to know there's something that's going to stay with you. and
Yes.
support all the way through in one way or another. So,
Exactly. Oh, yeah. We would never leave
yeah.
people.
but I
This-
mean, somebody might think that,
Mhm.
I might think,
Parenting is hard.
I know, isn't it though?
It's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Isn't it?
And my kids are 7 and 8. They're little.
Uh-huh.